Everyone, it's Ryan here. Today is the 11th of June and today is day 22. It's a rethink day, and today we're going to rethink carbs. Specifically, we're going to rethink the insulin. So, welcome everyone, and thank you for watching my rethink into about 100 days. So, R&D 100 days starts with rethinking followed by development. And today is day 20, rethinking tasty community. I'm sorry, rethinking the the carbs and especially the insulin. Okay, so what is the insulin? I think everybody tends to ignore this because people make the obesity, um, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol not related to insulin. Oh, well, why do I have these conditions? Well, because I just eat too much fat, right? Well, actually, it's related to carbs. You eat too much carbs, and that carbs is a type of sugar. Actually, it's the latter. Actually, it's insulin too much, and then you have the insulin resistance, which I'll talk about. This is just a brief overview into what I'll be talking about. And people just think, oh, I just need to have more insulin to regulate it. So just keep pinching your finger with the needle, and think things will all be fine, right? Oh no, because at that time you are in big trouble. When you keep eating carbs, you keep the sugars and fats in your body, right? So, so insulin regulates the blood sugar, which isn't doing it. When cells actually want the sugar, they won't get it, right? The good cells won't get it. So we need to recognize insulin. Once we recognize the insulin, now we know how to be healthy. And if we keep ignoring it, then it's too bad, okay? So insulin comes from the pancreas, right? It makes the hormones, but it makes the insulin, right? And the pancreas is located at around just below the right rib cage, and pancreas spits out insulin, but not whenever it wants. It's triggered by sugar, right? You eat a lot of if you need insulin to survive, so don't think about shutting it down, right? You eat a lot of carbs, the faster it turns to sugar, and the speed at which it turns into sugar is called the glycemic index, okay? Some foods are low and some foods are high, right? For example, um, celery, a vegetable, its glycemic index is very low, which means that it turns to glucose very slowly, right? It turns to sugar very slowly, which is glucose. And so your pancreas will still release the insulin like it's supposed to, but slower. Whereas if you eat a spoonful of sugar, then or a bread with the high glycemic index, it's gonna rapidly turn to sugar and rapidly tell the pancreas to poop out more insulin, right? So why is the insulin good, right? Um, Insulin, when the blood sugar gets too high, it needs to reach a certain level. When it reaches that certain level, now we have the insulin that connects it to the cell, right? It feeds the cell, which is what it's supposed to do. And insulin is a key that opens up the cell to let it absorb glucose, right? So now we have cells full of glucose, right? And once this happens, once it fills up, it's like at a gas station. The gas keeps filling up the tank, and when it reaches near the top, it will trigger something that will jump the gas, right? So insulin is like a key, and then so right now you have a feedback loop, right? The pancreas wants the insulin, it wants to make the insulin, and the cell is not telling it to stop. Now it's good because you want the feedback. Just like if you don't have feedback while fueling up your car, what's going to happen? Oil is going to go all over the place, and your car is going to explode, right? It's going to be very dangerous. So the insulin feeds the cell fuel. That's number one. And two, it helps you store sugar, right? And so mainly in the liver but there's some in the muscle, some in white blood cells, that's where sugar is, and some in the kidney, some in the brain. And the body stores sugar as something called glycogen, right? It's made of glucogen, and it's a series of glucose molecules. Okay, and there's two main types of storage: sugar and fat. We have some tanks in our body. Sugar, let's say sugar tanks and fat tanks, right? Our sugar storage in normal healthy person is about 1,700 calories of sugar, which is very low. Now our fat has a whopping 70,000 calories. That's a normal human being, right? And fat reserves so fat reserves are about 70,000 calories. And excess sugar is very easy, right? When it gets too high, what's going to happen, right? The insulin converts the fat into the liver, and then it rejects it, and now the excess sugar, where it's going to go outside of its tank, just like a fuel's going to go on the ground, and now you're going to go on your body's ground, your body's dumpster, which is the belly. It needs a place to deposit, and it just goes to the belly. And now you get belly fat, obesity, right? So what is a good amount of sugar to have? Well, the normal blood sugar is 80 to 100 milligrams per deciliter, right? Small. So 1 teaspoon of all your blood is a healthy human being is about 1 1/3 gallons of blood. Humans typically, I think, will have less a gallon. They'll have a quarter of a gallon, which is a quart. So you can think of 0.25 teaspoon, right? So 0.25 teaspoon is good. You need that to survive, or even a bit less, or even a bit much is fine. However, the average American eats 31 teaspoons. Just imagine you are eating, it's not 31 times more, but about 124 times. Imagine if you fueled up your car 124 times of fuel, right? What's going to happen? So now the insulin needs to get all the toxic sugar out, and it's going to dump into your belly. So now we're going to have the big cleanup session going on right now. And too much insulin feeds into cells, and now there's a feedback loop, and now it creates insulin resistance, where they don't want the insulin coming in, right? The insulin is not allowing the cell to be fed. It's blocking it off, right? It's kind of like your last resort. The key is not working. That's called insulin resistance, right? And there's no signal to tell the cell that glucose is getting in there, right? So the feedback loop is now inactive. Imagine you are fueling up your car and there's no jump to tell you when to stop, right? And you're blind. You don't know. There's no feeling. There's no one telling you to stop. That's what's happening right now. Okay, so the pancreas keeps making the insulin with no off switch, right? And the average American has 5 to 7 times more insulin than they're supposed to. And that is what you call pre-diabetic, right? You're basically going to get diabetes, right? The insulin is now going through the body, but is rejected by the body, right? It's going to go all throughout the body, and it's going to get rejected. And now sugar now goes to the fat of the belly, and you're not going to have a fat stomach, a fatty liver, etc. And 4 main systems of insulin resistance: fatigue, you're just tired, cravings, right, for sweets, bladder issues, you keep wanting to pee at night because fluid will follow the dumping of insulin, and brain fog, you just forget things, right? And insulin, protein, and potassium and amino acids go through the cells through insulin, right? Diabetics, right? What are the symptoms of them? Number 1, muscle weakness, loss of collagen. They can build muscle, joint, and herniated disc issues in the back. Low potassium, get tired, high sodium, arrhythmias, poor sleep, muscle cramp, so, right, constipation, gout, kidney stones. And insulin is needed for other things as well. And that's crash course on kidney and insulin, and sugars and carbs, right? So that's everything carbs and to develop it. See you guys tomorrow.